Are you a company looking for support in making digital content? Why not try GL Pro? GL Pro are a business based in London that help businesses like yours create content for the web, whether it's podcasts, video, or even websites. These guys are really good at what they do. For a free consultation, please contact GL Pro on www.glpro.co.uk/TigerHeartChats. Hi guys, I hope you're all well during the COVID-19 lockdown. You've tuned into episode 3 of Tiger Heart Chats. My name is Sanj Surati. I'm the CEO, founder, digital atelier of Tiger Heart. And today I've got a fantastic guest. He's one of my oldest friends, fantastic man. He does great things within the tech space, and he also does great things within the life coaching space. I'd like to introduce you to the one, the only Adam Giles.
Thanks, mate. Thank you very much for having me on. And it was such a glowing intro. I will take that all day long. But thanks for inviting me onto the podcast, man. It's really cool to be doing this.
No worries, man. I'm trying to keep the positivity going. Do you know what I'm saying? Like things are interesting right now, and it's quite easy for us all to just dip into that negative spiral. So yeah, that's why I'm trying to keep people smiling. How you been doing just over this period?
Yeah, good. I it's I think everyone goes through the phase of adaptation, and we all get challenged, and have to dig deep and find our resolve. But yeah, I'm really well, mate. I'm kind of embracing it, if I'm honest. It almost sounds a little bit cliche to say, like, yeah, I'm actually doing all right. I mean, kind of leaning into it, but I genuinely feel like I feel good. Everything's really good. Me and my girlfriend go for a walk every morning, and then I have a stretch, and I've got a coffee, and sets me up for my day. So I've kind of done that before our chat, and I'm feeling good. Everything's really well, thanks, mate. How about yourself? How are you doing?
Yeah, buddy. I mean, things are good for me. I mean, where we live is quite nice and quite leafy. I mean, we're still in London, but we're in a kind of leafy suburb of London, and people around here just seem quite smiley and quite nice. Obviously, the weather's been great, so that kind of helps. I mean, I don't know, it's been 5 weeks now, and I literally last week I started to kind of panic a little bit, started to freak out because I was like, oh my God, like it's kind of like Groundhog Day, like we're just kind of doing the same thing over and over again. But just keeping disciplines. Like my wife and I were running like 5K every morning now, which is great. Like I'm training super hard before I start in the office, which is really good. I've lost like almost 4 kilos, dude.
Wow.
Which is awesome.
What have you changed? Is it just the increased activity?
No,
or have you changed a few other things?
So there's key things that we changed. So one is the increase in activity. 2 is getting an early night. So we're going to bed latest at about 10 p.m.
Nice.
But the other one, which I never realized I had a problem with, was just stop eating or consuming anything at 8 p.m. So like no food after 8 p.m., no snacks. We're just sticking to like 1 alcoholic beverage a night. It's just changed my whole, like everything, my body, my mind, my spirit, everything's just completely changed.
Right, that's awesome. It's so funny how that happens, isn't it? You change a few little key things and it impacts other parts of your life. But that's awesome. Well done for that.
Thanks, man. Yeah, well, so we're getting like deep down in what you and I are doing. But there's going to be a few people that listen to this podcast who don't know you. I'd love it if you could just give us like a background about who you are, where you're from, and what you're currently doing.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Where to start? So everyone kind of normally labels people by profession. So I'll talk a bit about maybe what I've done in the past, and that will help kind of set some context for why you wanted to talk to me today. But I've worked in the tech industry, mobile tech industry specific, for the best part of 12 years, actually maybe longer, approaching 15, working for kind of household names such as Nokia, Microsoft, Samsung, HTC. I've kind of been around the mobile world for a while. So that's kind of my mainstay. But I've also through that time been very interested in my fitness and health. And actually that's coming from a place of not being always enjoying sport and having a healthy output, but actually having, I look back at it now, I've actually had a rather unhealthy journey in a lot of ways, which we can touch on as and when you see fit. But I got into fitness world through CrossFit. People have probably had a very similar journey to me. Did go to a regular gym, like a Globo gym, a kind of, Virgin Active or a Pure Gym or something, do some weights, then do some classes or stuff, then probably do a bit of P90X, and then maybe fall into CrossFit or an F45 or something like that. Like that journey's happened quite a lot to people. And I did the same thing. And then I got into coaching CrossFit. I was so interested in it. And so one of my kind of core things is I really love to know how things tick, which again is probably a good setup for some later discussion. But I love understanding how people, technology, that's where the synergy between my two worlds really collided. I love to understand and know stuff. I'm quite inquisitive. And that basically forced me to really want to understand why CrossFit was potent and why the training methodology really worked. And that led me down a rabbit hole discovery that kind of has got me to a point now where I've started lifestyle coaching and come up with it's not yet a method, but that's where I'd love it to go to. But it's kind of an approach, if you like, my approach. And really, I kind of placed by fixing a lot of my own issues. So there was a big catalyst for my change, and that was my mum passing away. And that happened about, no, it's all good. I mean, you were there for it. We talked about it. It's everyone at some point goes through the loss of a loved one, and it's an interesting thing for everyone because I believe it's different for everyone. But for me, it was kind of the best and worst thing to happen to me because it really obviously the hard stuff is losing someone that you love and look up to. But the positive was that it really showed me a lot of my blind spots and growth development areas. And also, so she passed from bowel cancer, which kind of moved to her liver and some other places. And it really made me start to investigate my own biology, but also identify, and then on my path of discovery, really identify kind of maybe some of the reasons that she had been susceptible to that. So all of that kind of has meant that I've created this training practice, is the kind of the way I frame it in my mind, that is all about kind of longevity, which is basically fixing me and as a catalyst of not being able to help my mum while she was here. So that's quite a long explanation, but my kind of side passion project has become this coaching, and that marries up with kind of my day job. So yes, I am a bit like a poor man's Batman, if you like. So my day job, my Bruce Wayne, if you like, is product marketing manager for kind of mobile tech businesses. And then my kind of Batman gig is this lifestyle coach. And I also do some podcasting that marries up with that as well. And that's kind of like my passion project that I do on the side at this stage.
Brilliant. So let's focus on your lifestyle coaching brand at the moment, which is called Primal Balance. Is that right?
That is, yeah. Primal Balance.
How long have you been running that for?
That's a good question. Do you know what? When you're like kind of, I've been doing this for a while, and then you're like, I can't actually remember how long it's been. So I've been coaching in the fitness and wellness space for about 5 years now, and I've been kind of working on Primal Balance probably for about 6 to 8 months, and have a couple of clients, but it's very early days still. Like it's certainly, while I have a framework and really the impetus for that was kind of fixing my own issue, so I know it kind of works. I tested it on myself, and now I work with a couple other people, but I'm still growing it. Still, it'd be great if we kind of can do a podcast later on down the line, and I can tell you all the things I learned, and we can look where he is now, kind of.
I've noticed your change since you set up the brands. You've always been very ripped. So I remember at my stag, you turned up and you took your shirt off, and all the guys in my group were like, "Oh my God, like Adam looks like he's going to explode." Like you've always been a very fit man. But just watching you since you've set up Primal Balance since then is how you've kind of refined that process, how your fitness becomes like a huge part of what you embody mentally and physically. So with regards to Primal Balance, I know we spoke about this before. There's a kind of, you call it the 4 pillars. Is that right? Like you've developed this kind of methodology. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and I kind of developed it as all people develop things by borrowing from others. So a lot of my peers, and I call them like almost like virtual mentors, because these people I've never met but look up to highly in the space and have got their courses or read their books and articles, kind of inspired this really. So there's other variants where people kind of have like 7 pillars or they call them different things. So I showed someone where to look, they'd be able to see where I've been inspired, and I've actually put that as part of my website, my inspiration for this kind of stuff. But it was interesting you talk about, me back in the day. You've seen my development and growth and your stag do. I was good at one. I was pretty competent at one pillar. So I had fitness down, and I sort of knew a second pillar. I kind of knew how I could manipulate like what I call nourish, but elements of nutrition. So I sort of had fitness and I sort of had nutrition. So my 4 pillars that I go through, and I'll go through them in order that I think are of importance, and we can dig a little deeper in this if you like. So the first one's called restore. The second one is called nourish. The third one is called mind, and the fourth one is called movement. And the reason I've ordered them, so the way I look at it, and if you go and have a look at my website and the other stuff, is everything's circular. So I believe that they kind of work together as almost like a wheel. And if you take one of the spokes out, the wheel becomes fragile. And if you go over a bump, that wheel's going to break. And that was where I was really when exactly around the stag do. I kind of had the fitness thing in a good place, and I sort of knew a bit about the nutrition. And then when the big rock that my wheel went over, which was my mum passing, happened, the stress of that event, and also some of the things. So I've always, like you said, been fairly fit and healthy, but there was one point where I had a bad relationship with alcohol, and I smoked a lot and things that you wouldn't consider health, and I wasn't very efficient at managing stress. So when that happened, literally the wheels came off and my health went completely out. I started noticing autoimmune issues, had gut related problems. I manifested physically. So I got real pain, loads of pain and injuries that I couldn't manage. And all these things started to crop up. And it was because I hadn't restore, which is basically my ability to, the idea of that is my ability to recover, but also put in place a good scaffolding or foundation so that when stressful or hard events happen or hardships happen, your body is capable of dealing with them. And I just didn't have that. I didn't have that resiliency to things. I had the physical resiliency, as in I could lift something heavy, or like if I needed to move an object or lift weights or move my body, manipulate that, I had that resiliency. But when it came to lots of other things, I was out of balance, which is why I called it Primal Balance. And the name behind it was really looking back at what makes humans successful, the primary need of a human being, not just survival, because a lot of us are just in survival mode day to day. But how do we take survival and then enable the ability to thrive? So that's where the kind of primal bit came from. And then balance is all of those pillars working together to kind of make you stronger and more resilient, rather than having some holes in the game.
Amazing.
So that's kind of the idea.
That's amazing, dude. Like, that's a really fantastic perspective on how to overcome, challenges. Because
Thanks, man. I appreciate that.
A lot of people assume that to overcome things, you have to be fit, and you do have to be fit, but fit where? Is it in your arms? Is it in your legs? And a lot of people forget about the mind. Like, the mind is probably the most important muscle in the body, because it's what defines your perspective. It's what defines your direction. It can help you to kind of unlock whatever that challenge is that you're facing.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting because the mind isn't just the brain. Like, the brain is an element of the mind, but your nervous system, your gut, your there's so much more that makes up mind, and that's why now we know gut health is so important, because they're so intrinsically linked.
Right.
And it starts from birth, like when your gut is formed in the birthing canal. So C-section babies don't get their gut formed properly. So there's a lot of little things that we don't, we now know, and we uncover, and they know now that they do a swab for C-section babies, so they know that now. But back in the 80s when I was born, it wasn't known. So my mum, if I relate it to myself, there might be people listening that are kind of like, okay, I don't really get that. My mum, for instance, to give you some setup for my issues, I was a C-section baby. She also had gut issues, and your mum passes on the gut foundation. So if your mum's got a good gut, you're going to have a good gut. Doesn't almost matter about your dad to a degree. So I was kind of almost at had a slight handicap in that regard, and then have some poor diet, in your 20s, and like I said, smoking, drinking, and enjoying myself a bit too much, set me up for a fall when I got later into my 30s and had all of this stuff compound. But it's that you've got your nervous system to think of as well, which is where restore and nourish and mind, they all start to interlink. Because one thing that I think it's easy to do, and it comes from a little bit from old school medicine, is look at a human as like a mechanism, as in like almost like a bits of machinery. And we unfortunately, what we do at the moment is we treat each part of the body differently. So you go to a brain doctor, and you go to a gut doctor, and you go to a physical doctor. For if you break your arm, you go to a certain person, but we don't go to a doctor who addresses every part of the body. And I think that you'll start to hear terms like functional medicine and functional practitioners coming, and holistic, and these types of words, where people are trying to look at the human as an integral organ that works in harmony. Because if you have an issue with your gut, it will affect your brain, and vice versa. That they're completely linked. So things like the nervous system, there's a term called the autonomic nervous system, and this is where really restore kind of comes to life, is the kind of governor for your mind in a lot of ways. If you're overly stressed, that can really impact the system in the other pillars. So your autonomic nervous system, and this is a little bit techy. I'll try not to get too into the weeds with stuff like this, but effectively you have your what we call our sympathetic state, which is our stress state. So if you imagine that you've had a hard day at work, or you're being chased by a bear, it's basically your alarm bells to kind of get you out of danger, and which is great. You need it. It's when you have a workout, that's what kicks in. It's like, when you jump out of bed in the morning, that's your cortisol, that's your autonomic nervous system being like, let's go. And you need stress in your life to be able to perform stressful activities like working out or what have you. But if you're always in that state, it can become very challenging, because your body can't recover. So it's imagine you're always in red alert, basically, like you're on red alert. Someone's pressed the red button and sirens are flashing. That's what your body's kind of doing all the time when you're in stress state. So we need to be able to get you into they call it rest and digest, which is the kind of other state of the nervous system that enables you to recover. So when you're in your flight or fight, that kind of stress state, all non-essential stuff happens, like your fingernails stop growing, for instance, and your hair stops growing, because it's non-essential. The essential thing is get you away from a bear, and it's a primal link to like when we had to get food or run away from danger, and we still have that. Like today, we haven't evolved beyond it. So you have this autonomic nervous system regulating your stress hormones, and we need to be able to switch back between the two, and that's kind of where restore comes in. And there are some really simple things that you can do to do that, and it's not, there's a lot of science behind it, but it doesn't need to be immensely scientific. It can be really like a great example from when you were talking to me about some of the simple things that you did not eating too late to give your digestive system an opportunity to recover from processing food. That is a way of switching back into that recovery state, so that when you go to sleep, you're not digesting food and your body can focus on recovering. That's like a really simple, tangible step that you can do. And so you just did that naturally because you were kind of like, well, I feel better when I do that, like, and there's like a lot of the 4 things that you said that you had changed are all things that link into that kind of restore, nourish, mind and move. And it's just about tying the dots together. But stress and is kind of the foundational piece. Understanding, it's like a dimmer switch, but understanding how it works really enables you to then make better choices around it.
Yeah. How did you kind of develop this? Was it just from being in this place and then researching and then changing your habits, or is there more to it than that?
No, it was absolutely that, mate. It was self-discovery. So I've been very fortunate. I worked at a CrossFit gym in London that at the time was kind of like the main one for a lot of reasons. Like there were other great CrossFit gyms, but it had a great reputation. I was very lucky with some of the people I got exposed to, and the coaches and other coaches who came to the gym to train. And I met a couple of really influential people the coaches I worked with as well were really knowledgeable, and I just started absorbing all this stuff. And then when I started getting my own issues, I was like, a great example is around foods. So and again, I could get into the weeds a little bit, so I'll try and make this top level bit to answer your question rather than just go too much down a rabbit hole. But one of the big mistakes I made with nutrition was that I didn't take into consideration 2 things. The first thing was my past, so what I had done to my body, and it turns out I had done some metabolic damage. My second thing was my biology, my genes, and my ancestry. And they're 2 things you don't really think about when you think about what you should eat, right? You think about, what do I enjoy eating? What do I like? What do I feel good when I eat? And that second point sort of ties into the other 2. But I was doing CrossFit, which is highly glycolytic, and glycogen is what your muscles store as energy, and it basically comes from sugar or carbohydrates. So when you eat, let's say we're doing bicep curls, our biceps are going to burn that sugar storage, and we need to replace it. So CrossFit is highly glycolytic in that regard. You burn a lot of glycogen doing it. So the literature says that you should be on a moderate to high carbohydrate diet during that. So I did that. I followed that. What, unbeknownst to me, what I didn't realize was that because of my biology, because of my mum and the history of our family and some degenerative diseases there, and also due to my metabolic instability, I was actually creating a lot of inflammation in my body. So there's a term that I'll use, and again, it's a bit sciencey, but when you've probably heard of the term insulin, especially surrounding diabetes. I'm insulin resistant, which basically means that when I eat carbohydrate and it produces insulin, my body doesn't know what to do with that. So all it does is it stores it as fat, and it can create inflammation in the body. You want to be insulin sensitive, which means you can really utilize that. So I was kind of having all this carbohydrate, creating all this inflammation in my body, and really that coupled with stress, which is also causing more inflammation in body. So workout is stress, mum passing is stress, work is stress, dealing with all the stresses everyone deals with in life. So it was just it was like compounding interest on me.
Wow.
So yeah, it was really tough. And it basically I was like, I'm doing all this training, I'm eating, just as a caveat, I don't actually drink now. I don't really eat sweets or sugary stuff. I don't eat desserts. I'm one of those people that everyone says, "Oh, you're so disciplined." I'm really good at, once I set myself goals and boundaries and sticking to them.
Yep.
And some people are like, you sound dull as dishwater, but it really works for me, and it's kind of how I enjoy living. But I'm, you know, when I say all of this stuff, people are like, oh, he must have been doing something else, like, you know, blah, blah. I was literally doing everything you're supposed to do because I wanted to be as healthy as I possibly could. I was also at a time in my life where I liked being competitive, and I wanted to be as good as the fitness thing as I could and compete with people in my gym and all that kind of stuff. And everything was going wrong. And then when that incident happened, literally, like I said, the wheels fell off. And I was like, I don't understand. I don't understand why I'm supposed to be fit. And, you know, in the CrossFit literature, they say you have a scale from sickness and wellness. If you imagine like a speedo, at 0 the speedo, you've got sickness, and the middle of the speedo, you've got wellness, and on the other end, you've got fitness. And you can go too far on the fitness if you train too much stress. Again, you can kind of go a bit back to sickness. But I was doing everything to prevent being ill, and I couldn't understand it. So I had to really basically become my own best researcher. And I recommend to anyone, every human being is different because of our biology makeup, the experiences that we've had through life. So what works for me, like as the detail in it might not work for someone else. I think, again, there's a kind of a coachy, fitnessy term, but macro and micro, you've probably heard of macronutrients, which are like carbs, fat, protein, and micronutrients, which are like your vitamins, your minerals and stuff. But that applies as a methodology. So macro view is actually the 4 pillars. You know, they generally work for everyone. The micro view is how I apply those 4 pillars to myself, but other people, because, you know, what I eat and you eat might have different reactions because we're not, you know, the same.
That is probably one of the most important things to understand for anyone is everyone's journey through this road to well-being is different, and it's different for many reasons. As you know, you mentioned genes and also like how unstable your metabolic composition is. Is that the way to say it? I don't know if that's
you could just say your metabolism. So like there's another term like metabolic pathways. But yeah, effectively your metabolism and the way that you metabolize nutrients is going to be different based on a lot of things. Like your ancestral health will play a massive part in that.
Absolutely. And I think having that type of mindset when looking for a coach or working with a coach is very important, because, or especially if you are a coach. I mean, I'm not a life coach, but my assumption is every time you meet someone, you yourself have to be very dynamic and sympathetic to the person that you're dealing with and what their roadmap is, you know, because it as you say, it's not the same.
Absolutely. We may have different goals around what you want to get to. I think one of the hardest things, and it's something that I still, you know, challenge myself with, is that it's really easy to get caught up in like, this is the way. Like, you know, the term right and wrong are really are things that you kind of have. I'm starting to try and let go of, because yes, there are principles that are true for many people, right? Like you've got, like I talked about, macros, and or let's say we're talking about losing weight. Generally, you have to eat less food than you're currently eating to lose weight. That's a general principle, right? Where everyone kind of gets that. But there are nuances around like hormones. So if you have your hormones out of balance, actually cutting someone's calories down and making them eat less is going to have the opposite effect. So there are principles that will work and that are truths, but I think you can get a bit stuck on like dogmatic approaches to like, this is how something works. And then you try and apply that to every person, and then you're going to come to someone where it doesn't work for them. And that's something that you have to be open-minded to, as I think, as a coach. And that's certainly my approach, is try and see the person in front of me and see all of them and all of the things that they need from me, rather than just being like, this is my approach, you have to fit me. It's the other way around, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
And that can be hard to pivot to be quite honest. Like, I've definitely had elements where I'm like, this normally works for most people. Why is it not working for this person? And it's need to adapt to them.
Absolutely. I mean, it's a similar case for Tiger Heart. So my agency, you know, we're innovation consultants. We work with businesses that are interested in new and emerging technologies. And sometimes they look at the successes of what we've done and want to emulate those successes. But initially, we have to kind of talk to them and go and get them to really understand that they're not the same business as the business that they're trying to emulate. And we have to kind of look at what it is that they have and nurture those in the right way so that they can be successful in a way that's unique to them. And that's the thing about success. It's unique to the person that you're working for, you know, or working with.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine that you would, in that case, would look at kind of like what's there. I don't know. I always like, you know me, I'm geeky, but like I always like the term like superpower. What's that business's superpower, and then try and elevate that rather than trying to give them a new superpower, I guess.
Absolutely. I mean, we get a lot of over the years, we've had a lot of businesses come to us, and the only thing they're talking about is numbers. Their kind of viewpoint is, right, I want to have like 10 million hits on Instagram or 50 million views on YouTube, and we say to them, well, look, if you want that, there's loads of companies in China and Asia, pay them $50 and they'll do that for you. It won't have any bearing on the success of your business, really, because it's just numbers. And they don't really understand it. Like, but you know, this company's got this. And it's like, yeah, but first things first, let's have a look under the hood. Let's figure out what's not working out. And let's make the right changes so that you can be successful in the way you want to be, that has relevance for your business ultimately.
Yeah, metrics are amazing. Like, data is incredible, but metrics can become someone's worst enemy. Like, I always use, for me, my great example of that is the scales. So you step on the scales and you, like, we see a number in front of us. Let's say you're, I don't know, 85 kilos, and you're kind of like, oh, I'd like to lose a little bit of weight. But that's just because that's a metric we can see. It's harder to know if you put on muscle and lose fat unless you've got the right metrics. But most of us don't have. It's harder to check that. So I'm working with a client, and really what they're trying to say is, I want to look better. I want to feel confident. I want to, whatever their reason for wanting to lose that weight or get a better body image is. And actually, you can get really caught up on like, I haven't lost any weight, but I actually feel great. I feel, you know, like I've got more energy. I can actually see, I actually feel better. I look better in my clothes and they fit better and all this kind of stuff. But actually, because we've put on a little bit of muscle, or there's various reasons. Again, I'm kind of using a generalistic approach here to kind of explain what I'm talking about, but I think most people get. And I think the same probably happens in your world, where someone's looking at, you know, how many followers they get or whatever the metric that they're trying to determine their success, but actually it's what's your goal you're trying to get towards.
Absolutely. And just going back to, you know, when we were talking initially, and I told you that I've lost quite a lot of weight since this COVID-19, the key thing really is that I just feel good. You know, I just feel
That's
great.
Awesome.
Like I wake up in the morning and I don't feel tired. I don't have any like lethargy at all. You know, I'm sleeping well. Like I'm having like amazing dreams. Like my digestion is good. To be honest, you know, I mentioned that I've almost lost 4 kilos. It's like, am I going to get to that 4th one? I don't know. But right now I don't care because I just feel so good. And that's the key thing, really.
Yeah, and I think that's the key thing for everyone. Is it, when I talk about stuff, I'm more interested generally about how people feel, and if I can make them feel good, and if they like actually are getting closer to the things that they want, because everything else is just periphery. If you're making yourself miserable to get to the body that you think you should have, is that worth it? That's, I guess, really kind of where some more of the mindset stuff that we were talking about a little bit at the beginning kind of comes in as that 4th pillar. Is like, you know, setting really tangible goals, understanding your values, understanding what, you know, what's going to make you happy and why, and trying to find your intrinsic and extrinsic motivations to want to do things. And that can work for anyone. And like all the things you're talking about from a business perspective really are, you know, impact everything we do kind of has a knock-on effect to every other part of our life. So you've just mentioned that you feel happier and healthier. I would imagine that's kind of coincided with being really productive and enjoying your days and finding everything a bit more enjoyable. I don't know. I'm kind of, don't want to put words in your mouth, but I'm hypothesizing a little bit.
No, absolutely.
The positive effect.
I think you've literally ticked all the boxes that I was thinking about. The big one, though, I think the big one that's kind of affected my productivity is taking the commute out of my daily life. Tiger Heart, we're one of those businesses that can work anywhere in the world, but we do go into London quite a few times in the week, and it is something that we don't mind. But bringing that thing out of the equation has definitely allowed my mind to be a little bit more less stressed and a lot more settled. Because not just about like getting on a train and sitting with loads of people that are just miserable, which is part of the charm sometimes. The key thing really was little things like waking up at a certain time, getting ready, doing, thinking about, I've got to get to the station, getting to the station, getting into the station, all of those things are taken out of the equation. And it's just allowed me allowed my mind to kind of process things a lot more clearly, which is great.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's really cool that you recognize that. I think it's, this time, like you said, we're in a very interesting and strange time, but I have to agree with you. Having less things to worry about has meant I can really focus my attention, which I've definitely, my sleep has improved immensely. So one of the things I used to really struggle with, and again, this was when you asked me the question about what pushed you to kind of start this thing, and my sleep was terrible. Like when my mum passed around that time, I was almost insomnia. Like didn't sleep very well. Would wake up 2 or 3 times a night. Really struggled to get to sleep. Like awful sleep, which impacted my recovery. Like we can talk a bit about sleep if you like, but it's generally the first thing when I work with anyone, I want to understand the first thing that I want to understand about anyone is what's their sleep like. Everything about their sleep, because sleep is the number one thing you can affect today that will impact every other part of your life. And I can unpack that a bit if you want, but sleep's a great thing to talk about. But now my sleep is great, and I've been sleeping like 9-10 hours some nights, and I haven't done that probably since I was like a teenager or in my 20s, and
wow.
And it's I've really not, and I had a good sleep schedule. I would, even though I was getting up and coaching at like 5 a.m. some days, I was still sleeping a minimum 7-8 hours a night, and I have a really deliberate sleep routine and practice. Like you talk about your morning routine. I have the same in the evening. I have an evening routine as well to enable great sleep habits, because I'm very aware of it. But sleep is like the number one thing I'm interested in when I engage with a new client, regardless of whether they have good sleep or not. I want to understand it, because there's some little tweaks you can make on sleep that impact how, like, your nutrition or nourish how you process food, how you recover, your mental state. Like it literally it's the one thing that affects all the pillars. And wow. I think a lot of the time it's overlooked, especially by our generation, because we were a little bit like sleep when you're dead, raving, going to gigs, like, kind of we were almost force ourselves not to sleep at times to get kind of life to the fullest, but that actually has quite a big impact the other way.
Absolutely. It's interesting you say that, because I do see a difference between our generation and the generation that's like 20 years younger than us on how they socialize. I remember in my 20s, late teens, early 20s, like, I'd work all day, then I'd meet some friends at a bar, we'd go out partying till like 4 a.m. Then I'd get home, go to bed at 5 a.m. and then be up at 7 a.m. to get ready for work. And I wouldn't bat an eyelid, and I'd feel great about it. But like now, like if I did that, it would just destroy me. Whilst and I mean this from a general point of view, not everyone's like this, but the 20-year-olds that I meet now, some of them are in bed at like 9 o'clock, and that's fine. Really? It's great. Yeah. It's a lot of them wake up a lot earlier though. And they'll go to the gym or they'll go for a jog or whatever. but it's definitely a different landscape than how it was when we were younger.
Yeah, absolutely. I can completely concur with that. I was the same, and again, that's I think where a lot of my, my issues later in life were. The foundation of that was my 20s, which was a lot of like, going to drum and bass raves, and even me and you would go out and have a boozy night and kind of like, meet at a bar after work in London and kind of, go to a gig and do loads of stuff. So it was really ingrained in our culture, and it still is to some degree. I still know mates that kind of like doing that now, but it has a big lasting effect. And sleep is just, if anyone listens to this kind of like wants to know the one thing that they can literally affect today, that will have a positive impact on tomorrow, it is your sleep tonight. And that would be that's always kind of my main starting point. If you're looking to make a positive change in your life from a fitness or wellness perspective, start with your sleep and build from there. And because it gets really easy to be like, right, well, I need to go to the gym and I need to eat this and I need to do this and I need to do, and then you're trying to like juggle these 15 new habits and you're like, well, I'm in lockdown, so I've got the time to do it. And then you end up becoming very overwhelmed, not managing to execute any of them and stress yourself out even more. So start with sleep and try and make sure you get 8 hours. And if you go on my Instagram, there's loads of tips around that. And if anyone ever wants to talk about it, I'm a real nerd and geek and love talking about this stuff. So I'll happily, like, if anyone ever has any questions or anything, they can just reach out and message me.
Absolutely, and we'll talk about contact details a little bit later.
Sure.
I just wanted to touch base because you kind of focused on how some people may find you dull and the stigma behind that. Now, I'm in agreement with you in that
I'm dull.
No, I get frustrated when people make judgment on my choices about my health. Like for example, I told you that we've changed a few things, like what time we wake up, what time we go to bed, what we're eating, when we're eating, etc. And it's had a positive impact on me. But there are some people that would look at that and go, "Oh, go on, you might as well get like drunk now. Let's get wasted." Like that. Let's talk about the stigma of that, because
sure,
you're telling me that some people may think you're dull. I don't think you're dull. I mean, I know you. I can talk to you. I think you mentioned that you're a bit of a geek, and I love talking to you about anything. You're very inquisitive. There's a lot of insight in that head of yours. What's your perspective on the stigma of people thinking that this kind of life choice is dull?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think there's a lot of different avenues we could take that down. I think that there's an element of there's a psychological thing, and you can kind of really delve into the psychology of humans, and ultimately a lot of the times, I mean, one of the things I'm trying to work on is understanding my ego and the ability to try not to judge people, because everyone's different and live their own truths. And I think a lot of the time when there's judgment involved, a lot of that time comes from an insecurity, a personal insecurity, or trauma, or something to that degree, where you're kind of like, well, I struggle with not being able to, I don't know, as this is a real generalization and argument, so please don't, those listening to kind of just, he's having a go at drinkers, but maybe if you are, if you do drink you find that drinking's a big part of your life, I can speak from my, maybe it's better if I speak from my example. When I drank a lot, it was my own insecurities manifesting in I want to be accepted by the people I'm around, and drinking's part of that. I too feel like lose my insecurities about some of the things that I'm hung up on. And actually, so I drank to, because my inhibitions and all that kind of stuff. So it was actually just more of a representation of me rather than actually thinking about someone else. And I think a lot of that tends to be where it comes from. And with one of the reasons that I'm like, I joked and said people think I'm dull, but I actually I'm really okay with who I am, and I think that just comes from acceptance and working on that kind of thing, and really just understanding who you are and what you love, and that's a big part of my growth, and something that I try and work with people on is that kind of understanding. And And that's tough. And actually, that's something that I'm still developing and taking training in, because psychology is a big topic, and it's not, I don't claim to be a psychologist or anything like that. I try and apply a little bit of, because it's, again, you've got to treat the whole human. I try and apply a little bit of that to the other pillars, which are kind of like I would call more my bread and butter, like the nutrition and physical coaching and things like that. But I think if you work with other human beings and you don't have an understanding of psychology and even a little bit of kind of however you want to deem the spirit or the energy a person carries, I think you're going to get to a point where some of your methodologies don't work, because we're quite complex, and actually, that's really where I think it kind of comes down to that I'd almost turn it back, as if anyone's listening, as a question as to, if you are someone that's like, oh, you're bored, that person sounds boring, why do they sound boring? And is it unrelatable? Because there are people out there that kind of do stuff that I don't really get, but I try and, as much as I don't know, give a good example. Music's a great example. There's some people that love music, that bands that I'm like, I just don't get why you would enjoy that. But actually, trying to just appreciate that people are different, and that's what means that the bands I like are almost better for me, like I'm more passionate about to me, because because they're kind of, we're a club, and all the people that like different stuff. So I think you've got to appreciate people's differences, because that's what makes stuff more meaningful in a lot of ways. If we all like the same stuff, did this exact live life in the same way, it'd be rather beige.
Absolutely. And, if you're deciding to go in a new direction, you have to enjoy that direction. There's lots of people that feel that a new diet or a new exercise regime has to be painful and hard. And it's like, no, it's not. I mentioned to you at the beginning that we've lost a lot of weight, my wife and I, since COVID-19. One of the things we had to think about was alcohol, because we do like to drink, not to get drunk. We like to drink because I like the taste of beer and I like the taste of wine, etc., etc. And what we've done is we're literally drinking every day, but we're only having one drink every day. And we don't drink after 8 p.m. So we're just having that one drink with our food and enjoying it and appreciating it. And we're still losing weight and we're still feeling great. I think it comes down to the core of what Primal Balance is about. It's about balance. Whatever you do, you need to be balanced in your approach to it, so that as you move forward through that process, you enjoy it and it makes you feel good.
Yeah, it's a really good point, man. Enjoyment, we're like, again, it comes back to the complexity of a human being, and that if you don't enjoy something, it's gonna, when shit gets hard. Sorry, I don't know if you have swearing, so apologies. You might have to edit that out. When stuff gets hard, you're going to go back to your default, and or you're going to stop doing something altogether. And I think that it is just find what you're passionate about. Like, if you don't like weight training, then don't do that for your fitness. Find something else that you do enjoy. And also, where do you get enjoyment? Because that's going to keep, like you said, we've created a routine. I like a drink. I know that it maybe doesn't pay into like all my fitness, but that enables me to, it's like my reward for doing all the other bits. And I don't go hell for leather. It's not an all or nothing approach. And it just enables you to kind of get that positive, the oxytocin, endorphins, all the positive, happy vibes from all the other stuff you've done throughout that day with your wife. That means it's meaningful, and it's a positive. That in itself is a positive expression of the habits that you've put into what you've been doing. So there's absolutely power in that. There's lots of science and studies to say that, like, almost with some diets, if I just, let's say we were working together and I'm like, right, Sanj, here's all the things you like. If you eat all of these things, you'll be like the perfect human. Okay. But you can't adhere to eating all those things because it's so far away from what you like to do. If you can't adhere to it, then the diet doesn't work for you, and actually you're not going to hit your goals. But if we tweak that just to make small little exceptions, like drinking and like one glass a night or what have you, and it means you can adhere to 99% of the other things, that means you're going to have more positive effects. And you just described that very eloquently in what you said, and it's absolutely true. And it's hard because it's easy to get hung up on the right way of doing something or the best way of doing something, and ultimately that is for you. And that's why I say to people, become your own best expert. Like, I don't profess to have any secret sauce that like hidden mysteries that you don't know. You know you better than I know you. All I'm going to try and do is help extract what you already know about yourself through working together, which is what you do for clients. That's ultimately what anyone does. Is I've maybe got a bit more experience in where to look or read some information that might be prudent. Like, let's have a discussion about that. And that to me is kind of as the role of, I almost don't like the term coach. It's like a guide or someone to like support you. Like you're a support mechanism for someone to kind of coach themselves in a weird way.
Absolutely. And it is about helping to nurture what's in a person so that they can nurture themselves and look after themselves. That's the ultimate goal.
Absolutely.
And there's nothing wrong with guidance. We all need guidance. The world would be a lonely place if you didn't have any guidance.
Absolutely.
That's what your peers are for. That's what your friends are for. That's what your family are for. But sometimes you don't get that from those circles, and you have to kind of look elsewhere. And it's important as well to kind of connect with people that you don't know, because then there's no judgment, at all. And that can help you dramatically.
Yeah, man. Really, really, like, I agree with all of that, and I think that you bang on. And it's so easy to kind of fall into your own kind of stories and traps around that kind of stuff, and be like, no, I don't need to do this, and it's really hard, because the amazing part of this time is that we're in this new age of information, and there's so much out there, and like I genuinely believe that whoever you are, through podcasts, books, online articles, there's so many free resources that are so educational that you can kind of teach yourself to do anything. The challenge is the context and experience in that. Like, how many times have you tried it? How many different types of people have you tried it? Almost within the fitness space, they kind of call it reps. Like, once you've done the reps of a movement, you get better and better, and ways to make it more effective. And the same thing through any kind of practice, really. Like, whether it's a business practice like yours, and you're doing your reps, the more companies you work with, the more times you do a digital execution or a physical execution or whatever it is, the more experience you have. So the next customer that comes to you, you know how to guide them to kind of the outcome that they want.
Absolutely. It's through practice that we all become better entities. Adam, mate, you have been absolutely fantastic. This has been a really, really interesting podcast. I've learned a lot from talking to you, and I've known you for a long time, which is kind of strange. But
thanks, man. I hope it came across well. Like, I know there's a lot of information, and it's quite a big topic, so I sometimes find it hard to scale it down into short form conversations. But hopefully people got something out of it.
We're going to definitely get you on to another show.
I'd love that.
This is Tiger Heart Chats. Those of you listening, don't forget the hashtag Tiger Heart Chats, all one word. There's also the other brand, Sanj Surati Talks, which is more kind of like entertainment focused. And I'm talking to Nathan Fluke Boxley at the moment about us, like a sort of boxing fitness episode, and I'd love to get you in on
cool.
that. But we'll talk about that another time. Sorry, we're going off on a tangent. If people want to get in contact with you, what's the best way?
There's multiple ways. I'll kind of maybe share a few kind of connection points with me. So I have a website which with the coaching, which is called which is primalbalance.co.uk. There's also an Instagram for that, which is Primal Balance Coaching. And then I have my own podcast, which is we've mentioned Inquisitive a few times. It's called Inquisitive Beast, and it's all about my inquisitive nature around lots of topics. So there's a lot about lifestyle and health and fitness, but there's also things around music and technology and things like that in there, and trying to kind of link them all together. And that's kind of my personal Instagram is just Inquisitive Beast, and I have my own podcast. And then there's on the website you can get all my contact details as well if you want to email directly. I have adam@primalbalance.co.uk if you want to email me, but otherwise just DM me on Instagram, any of those channels. Or come engage with me. I'm, like I said, very active, and I'm always willing to talk to people. That's kind of the reason I have a podcast and love coming on podcasts. But if you have any questions, comments, or even if you want to challenge some stuff, like I'm really open to people's challenging ideas, because that's where I believe I grow. So if there's stuff that you're like, I don't really agree with that, or maybe I've, put something forth that you're not sure is correct. I'm, really happy to kind of have a discussion around that, because I think that's, like I said, where we grow and where we learn.
Absolutely. And, there's a lot of people out there I know. I've got a few other friends who are coaches who are seeing a lot of business at the moment because, during this worldwide pause, people are starting to reflect on things, whether it's they need to help with what's currently going on, or they're making like a change in career and they just need a bit of guidance. Adam's a really, really great guy, and his brand, Primal Balance, is a fantastic brand with so much value for anyone that's interested in it. So please do get in contact with him.
Yeah, please do get in touch, even if it's just to say hi.
Awesome. All right. Well, look, guys, you've been awesome. Thanks so much for listening. Adam, you've been great. We'll see you on the next one. But everyone else out there who's listening, I hope you guys are safe. We're just being careful over this COVID-19 lockdown. You've been listening to Tiger Heart Chats. We'll see you soon.